During this week, I was chatting to one of our young adults who has grown up in the community. I was talking to Avi Rose-Walsh, and we got onto the subject of the death of George Floyd. And until that moment, until that conversation, I had very much seen the murder and the outpouring of emotion after it as something external to us, something that was happening over there, not just in America, but to another community outside of us. And I realized in the conversation with Avi that that is to do with the privilege of my life, that I was able to see that incident as being somewhat other to me. And so his wise words were ringing in my ears throughout the next few days as I was trying to write the sermon for today. And what I realized I was doing by my giving the sermon was again silencing him, again sanitizing his thoughts and his words and making them mine. So instead, I invited Avi to share his own words, his own thoughts with us today, and give us the opportunity to look into ourselves. So Avi, we are going to come to you.
Hello, I'm Avi. I've always been very proud of my heritage as a Guatemalan and as a Jew, both of which who have shaped who I am as a person and how I live my life. Being the target of racial slurs is unfortunately not something I'm unfamiliar with, and regrettably something that I've grown to ignore and have learned to laugh at rather than have allowed to ruin my day. Ever since I can remember, I've always been told that as Jews, we must be welcoming and caring to those around us, and our Jewish values demand that we treat others that we want to be as we want to be treated ourselves, which is why it feels so hard that actually sometimes I feel so unwelcome in a community that I've previously felt so welcome in. As I grow older and more frequently, I have found my Jewishness being questioned by white Jews who simply do not believe that I could be Jewish too. I don't look Jewish, which I get that, but the fact they look the part seems to give them the power over me to question and seemingly force me to validate my Jewishness to them, that they somehow have this power over me. I understand that curiosity is to be expected, but I think the manner in which someone approaches that is so important. It rarely ever comes across as genuine intrigue, but rather a validation that I have to justify me being in that Jewish space. Words really don't describe how humiliating it is going to a synagogue that I've been part of for the best part of 20 odd years, to be pulled aside walking in with my friends just because of the color of my skin. There's no other reason as to why I would have been stopped to going in. They asked me why I'm here, who I'm here to see. I'll give names of people inside, and that still sometimes isn't good enough. It's happened to synagogues all across London. Aelith, someone questioned me about I was waiting for a friend inside, and they asked me why I was there, and I explained, and I told them I was Jewish, and I said that I was actually a member of FRS. And instead of that being enough, this person then said, "Oh, so who do you know there? How do you know these people?" Really started questioning and trying to get me to justify and validate what I had to say to him about my seemingly Jewish knowledge that to him didn't make sense. I walked to the Sternberg Center to take part in events that for a youth movement that I've been involved in for so many years, and my bag will be searched every time if I have one with me. My peers will walk through just fine without the blink of an eye. When you go to a synagogue and you look in the foyer, there are more often than not so many faces that you don't recognize. People come and go. They might have recently become members, maybe visiting for a bar bat mitzvah. Maybe they've just come with family and friends, but you assume that they're there for a reason. Their presence goes unchallenged because they look the part. They are white, and so you don't question it. But I can't say the same for myself. I don't feel comfortable entering Jewish spaces anymore. If I know in the coming, if I know later on in the day that I'm entering a Jewish space, I will try and make myself look as Jewish as possible. And I don't even know what that looks like, short of changing my skin color. I'll put on like youth movement merchandise that has Hebrew written all over it. You'll see like the recognizable logos and whatever it is. I've got a necklace that I'll have like come out that it has Hebrew on it. And I'll have it like in clear view, and still I'll go near a synagogue, or I'll go near somewhere that they're holding this event, and I'll still get questioned about it. My presence will always be challenged, and actually what I want to do is just feel like I belong in this community. I think in regards to America, I'm not going to claim that my personal experiences are any way kind of comparable to what's happened in America in regards to like the severity of it, because I think there is nothing like it right now. But I think there are striking similarities into the way that acts of racial discrimination are treated within the Jewish community. The knowledge that if I call someone out on something, the likelihood is that there will be no consequences for the other people. No matter how loudly you say it, nothing will change. Over the last week, the youth movement that I've been part of for the best part of 10 years, I noticed them posting on social media about George Floyd. And I think it's admirable, because of course it's something that we should be speaking up about as Jews and as decent human beings. But whilst I can appreciate the meaning behind it, it honestly just left me furious, because I've been complaining about acts of like racism. I've been complaining about racism for the best part of 5 years now. Nothing has changed. It's not like I've just kind of spoken to my friends about it. I've gone to people that work at every level of the movement, and nothing has happened. It's not just been from my peers, it's from people that have been older than me. It's been people that I thought were in a position that they should be protecting us. My complaints fell on deaf ears, and before Christmas we held like a conference, as it was, for the senior leaders, and to discuss about what we can do as a movement to kind of continuously grow and kind of do better for ourselves and those around us. And I brought forwards that actually we don't do enough when people are racist, and that what we're doing right now isn't good enough. And the movement describes itself as a movement that is fully committed to creating a safe and supportive Jewish environment where all participants and leaders enjoy themselves and develop their connection with Judaism, Israel, and social justice. And right now that doesn't happen, and we don't have the right framework to tackle racial incidents. And I think what's striking is that right now, figuratively, obviously, and everything moves on. Something that I remembered in between writing this and today is that in the last kind of few months, we had an event where we were asked to create an ideal Jewish community. This was on like an event with children, and one of the kids drew bombs and drew really racist things. And we went to the people above us, seeking advice. We thought we should kind of give them the proper like punishment and what we thought was appropriate, but we were told that a formal warning was enough. And actually it's not enough, because something that hasn't changed their life in the slightest. All it's done is they've missed 10 minutes of what they were doing before, and actually has no impact on anything. And at this conference I expressed my desire to essentially take a zero tolerance policy towards racism, that if you're racist on an event, you should be going home, but not kind of leaving it there, but we should be educating on it. There are so many charities in and around the UK, in London, that educate on racism, Islamophobia, whatever it may be. And actually it's our duty not only to just kind of remove them from a situation, but to tell them why they've been doing wrong. And I think we are not necessarily in that position to do so. But there are so many people that are, and I think to form those relationships can only do good. And it felt like that when these people told me no, that they were prioritizing the personal growth of the person that has been offensive over the feelings and the well-being of the person that feels like they've been discriminated against. And it's not an environment that is friendly or safe for those that feel like they are in the minority, you know. And I think in this sense, the Jewish community as a whole is filled with a sense of hypocrisy, and that we rightfully so will stand and shout to the heavens about all the injustices that are going on around the world, but cannot address them within our own Jewish bubble. You know, it's a problem within a community when there is racism and prejudice that is rife, small and big. But it's a bigger problem when a community is made aware of it and still turns a blind eye. And, you know, we have a responsibility to not only preach about the issues in our society, but enact upon them and do something about them. And I think I know a lot of situations, the things that are said are not done with malice and they are done with good intentions, but I think it is very important that we think about the way we say things to those that already may seem or feel out of place. And I think, personally, I think in need of a sense of validation that it's okay that I am in a synagogue wanting to pray with, you know, fellow Jews, rather than being questioned as to why I'm there, like being asked, to prove to me that you're Jewish, that you can come in. You know, I've seen the compassion that this community has to offer, putting together in times of hardship and supporting those that need help. And I just hope that this is something that just one more thing that we can continue working on, rather than acting like it's just not an issue, because it really is, and affects more. It affects people more than they care to admit, I think.
Avi, I can't thank you enough. Your words are so important to us, and I am so grateful for your bravery and your willingness to be able to be part of a community in this way, and be able to sit amongst the community that you have grown up in, and be able to say to us, this is time for us to look into ourselves and acknowledge that there are things we need to get right in our own house before we start looking and criticizing others. It is the most incredible way of being able to give voice, not just to you and to your gorgeous sister Catty, but to so many people who are both members of the community and put up with the kinds of things that you've been putting up with for many, many years. And even more sadly, those people who are not part of the community because they neither found their voice nor part of the community, so they simply walked away. I think you have set us the most incredible challenge. So often we look at issues of social justice in the world and know that we are a tiny cog in trying to change the world. But what we do know is that when it comes to our own community, our own synagogue, our own movement, and the Jewish community as a whole, we definitely need to find our voices to be able to do this piece of work in a proper and thought out way.